Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Gaming the System, the podcast where three intersectional feminists examine gaming and games through a feminist lens. Today, I am your host, Matt, and I'm with my friend, Jem. Before we get started, if you want to support us, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem for some exclusive content, or you can send us a one-off donation via PayPal to our email address, wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com. So, today we are back in our first recording after our lovely break. We thought Jem and I would try our hand at a reaction video, and the perfect opportunity has come up. We're going to do it on the recently released Last of Us 2 Season 2 trailer. So, I haven't watched it. Have you watched it,
No,
Jem?
I haven't watched it yet either.
Oh, exciting. So we're going to get our first reaction, just going to watch it through, and then we'll talk about it, because obviously we both played the game all the way through. We have a rough idea of the horrors that are in store, and it'll be interesting to see how they make it so much worse and more horrible in live action. So, let's begin. Clicking on the share screen so that...
Everything has changed since I brought her back.
Did you hurt her? And what? What did you do? Joel Miller.
Who are you?
I am your consequence. I don't care.
Joel, what happened? I saved her.
Oh, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. Oh, yeah. So, part one, poor Joel. Oh, can you hear an echo?
No.
Okay, I can hear myself a little bit. We'll carry on. Poor Joel. Joel looks so old and tired. He looks like he's properly carrying the weight of everything he's done. Yeah, I'm so worried. Because they've said that it's going to take them multiple seasons to cover what happened in the game, and so they might structure it completely differently, because Joel presumably the woman talking to Joel then, who says "I'm your consequence," is Abby. And they don't have a polite conversation between them. It just immediately goes, "I'll save you," and then This is a spoiler review, so everyone, you've got 3 seconds to pause and go away before we do this. Beating Joel to death with a fucking golf club, and
That scene was intense in the game. Actually, I'm not sure that I want to see it in live action, as it was difficult to watch in the game, and I've really connected with the live action characters. I think I'd really connected with the game characters, but I've connected even more with the live action characters, so I think that will be harsh. I don't know though, because that happens very early on in the game, in the second Last of Us, doesn't it? That whole scene. So, but whereas from this trailer, it almost feels like we might not get to that bit until towards the end of this second season. Which is fine, because there's quite a lot of, in the game, there's quite a lot of flashbacks, aren't there, that fill in the gaps of what's happened up until where you are when you play. So perhaps they're going to run this more chronologically, in which case maybe we might not get to that until the end of this season.
Yeah, because the journey that Joel and Ellie go on, because I think it's a 4-year gap between the first game and the second game, and their relationship through that is so interesting and so complex and so fucking tragic. And we get to see one thing I remember clearly from after Joel's dead, and then Ellie and Dina are about to head out. They go and they walk through Joel's house, and it's so clear that he has found a level of peace and comfort where he is, because the first thing you see is tons of flowers out the front, and then you go in and you see all his terrible DVD collection.
Yeah.
And you see he's made his own guitars, and he's put the watch that he with the bullet on it from when his daughter was killed, he's put it away in a nice little safe box. So on that side of thing, that's beautiful. But the thing he cares most about is Ellie and their relationship for those 4 years. You can see it on his face.
Yeah.
How much that has worn on him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm intrigued to see more about that. I'm hoping they're going to explore that in more detail in the series, because they don't explore it in that much detail in the game, and which is good, because I think there is a thing. I was listening to a podcast the other day where they were talking about, cutscenes are just too long. That some cutscenes can go on for ages. So I think in one example I read about, they were saying the end cutscene of, I cannot remember the name of the game, but it was 30 minutes long or 40 minutes long, and that's
probably Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And I think that has some. I'm not saying I don't like cutscenes, because I do, because they help you kind of get into the story, but they can also be quite jarring, like when you're in the middle of playing and then suddenly go into this really long cutscene, and then you come out and now you're beating up more monsters, and it can be a little bit jarring. And so I'll be really interested to see if they can explore some of what happened between Joel and Ellie in more detail than they did in the games. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah,
because it's TV is just one long cutscene after another, and with gaming, the focus is on playing and interacting, and so it's a fine balance between how you do exposition, because exposition can be done during gameplay. It doesn't have to be things like the walking through Joe's house is show me, don't tell me. Yes. And the sign of poor writing is when there's no silence, there's no stillness. It's just word after word after word of pointless babble.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I think talking about action that you said about, that was something that I feel like that was missing from that trailer. We didn't see any action really. We saw a couple of, we saw the sort of flashbacks to the hospital, and we saw a couple of the zombie monsters, the clickers and stuff. But is it going to be more about? Is the focus going to be on their relationship and less on the action side of the show?
One of my criticisms of the last season was that the violence wasn't distinct enough. It wasn't. It was very sort of normal. It was sort of nothing we haven't seen before. Whereas the foundation of the second game is extreme violence, and not just physical violence, but mental torture, and really horrifying things that if you take those things out of the game, then the game doesn't make as much sense. Because, and I don't think they're not going to have a choice with including that kind of violence in these coming seasons, because of if beating someone to death with a golf club, that's an extremely distinct and extreme kind of violence. And it's going to be happening to Pedro Pascal, who is the most lovely person ever. And but then going on, the stuff that Ellie does is as extreme as it gets. And it needs to be extreme enough that your perspective on the characters is really strained. Because at the moment you can just, I understand everything that Joel's done, I love him. I understand everything that Ellie's done, I love him. But when you get sort of going through the game and they're doing more and more horrifying stuff, you have to go, do I still like this person?
Yeah.
Are they still a good guy? And one of the most terrifying parts of that game is Isaac, who is Jeffrey Wright's character. He was utterly terrifying. One of the most haunting lines from it is when Abby and her friend, they've gone from the beautiful football stadium with this lovely society, and then they go off to find Isaac's headquarters, and through the walk to his HQ room, that's where they're torturing the scars. And the first thing you hear, I think it's one of the first things you hear him say, is he's been talking to this scar who's been tortured, and he walks up to the guard and says, "Don't let him sleep." And that's one of the most horrifying lines I've ever heard. And to have him playing, he played the character in the game, and having him back, I'm excited and terrified to see, hopefully, that they're able to put a new twist on it, the same way that they did with Frank's character, because they spent an over an hour long episode on just some story, and now they've got the space to breathe space into these things and tell them a different way. So yeah, it's just exciting.
I mean, I did feel in the game, there were definitely points where I felt that it was just so much violence. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm just killing people for the sake of killing people, and I think there's something with like a zombie game or a sort of monster shooty game that that you're killing the enemy. It's really clear. They have no thoughts, they have no feelings, they are no one. They're not human. I think there's a big difference for me when I'm gaming between that and then you're killing bandits, or you're killing mercenaries, but you're killing people. And there were certainly points in the second game where I just felt a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of slaughter that was going on, and as you say, that then makes you question, like, who are the good guys here? Are there any good guys here? What am I doing? Who am I in this? And I think that will be interesting to see how they manage to translate that into the show, because so many of the big shows, the popular shows, it's very clear who the good guys are and the bad guys, and people like that. They like those clear lines so that they know who they're rooting for. And I think The Last of Us is a series. The games are a series where those lines are blurred, because we're in this completely different world now where, you know, there's a whole different set of rules and what people will and won't do and what is and isn't okay. And I think that is set off immediately from the start by Joel's choice, you know, and Ellie's reaction to that. You know, I think that immediately shows, you know, he made what he thought was the right choice for Ellie, but was it the right choice? Was it the right choice for humanity? You know, we don't know, and that, I think that's the other thing. We don't really know whether she could have, you know, been a solution or not. We'll never find out, and I think that's a very realistic thing. So I think it'd be interesting to see how they bring that through in the series, in the live action show.
Yeah, it's the ultimate like study in how to create a grey world.
Yeah.
Because there are no right answers. There are only consequences. Everything has consequences. And so what do you choose to do? Because we talked about it when we were doing our reviews of it. Joel did it for himself. He was also right because they were going to do this to Ellie without her permission. But they were right because they're thinking about the world.
Yeah.
And people making decisions and there being consequences. And that's what life is like.
Yeah.
You don't just have heroes who have no flaws.
Yeah.
I think of this a lot when I watch World War II films. Because, say, like Saving Private Ryan, so they're all heroes, it's all great, hooray, and fun. But then America had segregation for the next 20 years still. And you go, you have to have that as part of the conversation. It doesn't take away what they did that was good, but you have to say, but a lot of them also believed in segregation, and go, well, how do we measure stuff based on that reality? And it makes it so much more interesting. So much more interesting. And yeah, The Last of Us does that really well.
Oh, I can't believe that we have to wait till January for it, though. Oh my god! I thought it was coming out sooner than that. That was probably my biggest disappointment from that.
I remember being gutted at the start of the year because they said, oh, it's going to be 2 years until because it wasn't last year, it was the year before.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to see. Thank you very much, Jam. That was really interesting, really exciting. Our first ever reaction video, and hopefully more to come. And until next time, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.